Hi everyone and welcome back. My name is Madeline and I review books, movies, TV shows, kind of whatever every single Tuesday. Also, welcome back to me because I did take a month off for school, but now I'm back and I'm so excited to talk about books. Today we're going to be talking about Cassandra Clare's newest book, Chain of Iron, which I just finished last night. I am so excited to talk about it, so let's get into it. First of all, I want to talk about what I loved. I love this series. I'm obsessed with it. I love this book. This book was phenomenal. The characters are great. The plot is great. It's so intricate. It's so well woven. I was trying to kind of rant to my mom last night and it was just like hitting me like how amazingly complex this series is, and I love it literally so much. Oh, I do want to preface this that we are about to get into spoilers, so if you haven't read the book yet, please step away and then come back once you have read the book so we can talk about it. A couple of my favorite parts from this book include when James and Cordelia are just having their like calm evenings alone in their house as a newly married couple, playing games and just talking. I thought that was so sweet. I really loved that section. I also really loved Thomas and Alistair's kind of come to Jesus heart-to-heart moment when they really open up to each other and Alistair's like finally there for Thomas for the first time. Like, I just really loved that. I also really loved at the end of the book when Matthew is able to kind of confess his feelings for Cordelia but not make her feel like she needs to reciprocate them. Like, he understands that she's in love with James, and I just love Matthew for that. But I also love that he's there for her as a friend and she's going through a hard time and like he understands her and he like I just loved it. I loved it. I think one of my favorite things also about this book was just all the declarations of love. Every single one. Every single one. And there were so many. There was James and Cordelia, sort of, when he's like admitting it to himself that he's in love with her. Which, by the way, it's just so fascinating to read the mind and perspective of someone who's like under a charm or an enchantment, but they don't realize it. He's like, I'm in love with Cordelia, but then he's like, no, I'm not. I'm in love with Grace. Like, that was just so well written. But anyway, back to the declarations of love. Like Matthew and Cordelia, we had Thomas and Alistair, Anne and Ariadne, or however you say her name. Like, it was just so good. Oh, Jesse and Lucy. I gotta tell you guys, I am in love with Jesse. Like, Jesse, I love Jesse. Like, I love him, and I love him with Lucy, but I love Jesse. And I love Matthew too, and James. I don't know, I guess I love them all at the end of the day. I was a little sad that like literally every single couple is broken up by the end of the novel, but you know, that's how second novels in a trilogy go. We have to have them break up so they get back together in the third book. I totally understand. I really love in particular like the time period that these books take place in and all of the like literature quotes. When she being Cassandra Clare, equates the shadow market with Christina Rossetti's goblin market. Genius. Brilliant. I loved it. That was so smart. Such a cool move. Like, that was just such a fun way to incorporate the literature of the time with this novel. The other thing I liked about this novel is how suspenseful it was. I was on the edge of my seat when Thomas was going on patrols by himself, and then we have, you know, Belial, whatever, like that demon, when we have the Prince of Hell, when we have his perspective and he sees Thomas and we know he's the murderer, I was like, oh my god. And then like Thomas doesn't get killed and you're so relieved, but then he gets framed for murder, and it was just like a roller coaster ride. Like, what's gonna happen with that? Like, it was so intense and I loved every minute of it. The other thing that was suspenseful was James's dreams. In a way, it reminded me of when Harry Potter starts having dreams where he's in Voldemort's perspective and it's like, is he being possessed? Is he seeing into Voldemort? You know, like, you just don't know what the dynamic is, and I thought that was really cool. But I am curious who all of you think is sending James the dreams, because it doesn't seem to be his grandfather, and I don't think it is James like seeking out his grandfather's perspective because he spent so long blocking it out. So I do think it's an outside person, but I'm not sure who it is. So if anyone has any theories, drop it in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. There were a couple things I thought were just like kind of odd or confusing about the book, so I just want to touch on those really quick. The first thing is that James, his nickname for Matthew is Math, and to me, that just doesn't fit. Math is what you call like that nerd in your friend group who's like really good at STEM. Like, Math for Matthew just doesn't make any sense. If anything, he'd be a Matt or a Maddie, but he's a Matthew. Like, he's not a Math. That weirded me out. This is also probably just totally me thing, but for some reason, Ariadne and Eugenia, I can't tell them apart. Is that weird? I literally can't tell them apart. Like when I'm reading, I have to like think in my head like, who the heck is this? And then like get into it. But I think now that we're getting more about both of them, we didn't really get much about them in Chain of Gold. So now that we're in Chain of Iron, like I could tell them apart a little bit more maybe, but like not 100%. So I don't know. I don't know about that one. And then the third thing that I thought was a little odd is that Cecily was like mysteriously absent throughout the novel. And I know a couple times they were like, oh, well, she's just taking care of Alexander, which I totally get. But like, I think it's a little sus that she's gone. So is she doing something? Is she working on something? What is she up to? Is someone sick? Yeah, like just where was she? Like, I don't get it. We saw Gideon, we saw Gabriel, we saw Sophie, and then Cecily was just like always MIA. So I thought that was a little odd. I'm curious to see if that gets addressed in the next novel or if she just was taking care of Alexander. Then I have a couple thoughts going forward. I do want to preface this by saying that I haven't looked at that family tree published a couple books ago at all because I didn't want any spoilers. And I know Cassie said that it's not necessarily accurate, but I just don't want any preconceived notions. So this is a spoiler-free zone. People in the comments, do not tell me what's happening in the family tree. My first question is, are Grace and Christopher gonna get together? Because it seems like they kind of bond over their like love of science, but it just seems like a weird pairing. Like, and I hate Grace, so it's just hard for me to like wrap my mind around that one. But it seems to be like hinted at, so that'll be interesting. Like, I guess I want her to have a friend. I just don't want Christopher to have to be that friend. You know, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Not entirely sure how to feel. I also really, really hope they can bring Lucy back. When Lucy collapsed after bringing back Jesse, it just, all these flashbacks of Vampire Diaries flash in my mind. When Bonnie is sacrificing herself to save Jeremy and her grandmother tells her that dark magic always comes with a cost and nature will find a balance. So I'm really worried that they're not gonna be able to bring her back, and that would be devastating because I love Lucy and I think maybe I relate to her the most in this series. So I really need Lucy to come back, especially because I just don't think Jesse could live with himself if he came back at the cost of Lucy. Like, I don't. I just need Lucy to come back. And then real quick, let's talk about that ending. The scene at the train station. The scene at the train station killed me because like we want James to be able to confess his love, obviously, to Cordelia, but like he has to save his sister. But then it's also like I think Matthew and Cordelia deserve to go to Paris and have a little fun. Like they've had a really hard time, and so you know I'm ultimately glad James did what he did, but like was it painful to watch? Obviously. So I'm really excited though to hear about Matthew and Cordelia's trip to Paris in the next book. I was looking on Cassandra Clare's website. It looks like the next book's kind of unscheduled, but it will be coming out in 2022 hopefully. So I'm like very excited to see that. Well, that's all I have to say about the matter today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, follow, subscribe, share. I have a book TikTok account at Casual Madeline. Please feel free to follow me there as well. I would love to hear if anyone has any thoughts or theories about Chain of Iron or the next book, Chain of Thorns. So please leave those in the comments below. As always, it's been a pleasure making this video and I hope to interact with you guys soon. I'll see you next Tuesday. Jesse back. I need to Vampire Diaries when when Jesse also thumbnails.